Okay, this is the start of continuing Microsoft Project 1. This is video 3. So in part 2, we finished creating the actual spreadsheet, putting in the text and numbers. Now we are going to do some formatting so that the spreadsheet looks better and is easier to read. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to be changing the font style, size, and color using cell styles, something called merging and centering. We're going to be looking at the different ways you can format numbers, adjusting the widths of the columns of the spreadsheet, and then lastly, there's a box called the name box where you can type in a cell location, and that cell will become your active cell. So here is where we are with our spreadsheet. Okay, so we have the numbers put in, everything ready to go. Now we just need to make it look nicer. So we're going to start by formatting our spreadsheet title, the personal budget worksheet, in cell A1. So with that cell active, I'm going to come over to my cell styles. Okay, now your screen might look a little different. So you're looking for something that says cell styles, and we need to find the drop-down menu. Okay, and there's several pre-formatted styles that you can apply to a cell, and we're going to use more of them later on. But for cell A1, we're going to use this cell style called title. So I'm going to click on title, and it applies that formatting to it, makes it a little bit larger, and changes the font style. Okay, so that's our title of our worksheet. So our cell A2, kind of the subtitle, if you will, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to change the font manually here. Okay, the same way you would in any other program. I'm going to change from Calibri to the one right above it that says Calibri Light. So let's change the font style there. And I want to bold that cell also. Okay, so I'm going to actually bold cell A1, and I'm going to bold cell A2. So that's just using the regular bold. Okay, and with cell A2 active, I'm also going to increase the font size. Okay, so I want to make cell A2 size 14. So we're increasing the font size. Okay, so we have a title cell style in A1, and it's bold. We have Calibri Light as the font. It's also bold, and we made it size 14 in cell A2. Okay, so now we're going to go back to cell A1, and we're going to change the font color. Okay, so I'm going to use the font color selection right here and use the drop down. And we're going to go right over to this orange accent 2, one of the theme colors, the top entry there, and change that. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to cell A2, so to monthly estimates, and use the same color there as well. Okay, so we did a little formatting of our title and subtitle. All right, next we're going to do something called merging and centering. So we want these titles, our personal budget worksheet title and the subtitle, to kind of be centered above this whole area here. Okay, and using the regular center button won't work. That just centers whatever's in the contents of one cell. So what we want to do here is merge and center. So I'm going to take my mouse and make sure you have the white selection tool and click, and I'm going to highlight just row 1, but columns A through N for the entire width of our spreadsheet. And then right up here in our toolbar is a button called Merge and Center. When I click that, it takes all of those cells and merges them into one, and then centers whatever is in those cells. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing to row 2. Now you do have to do these one at a time. You can't do row 1 and 2 at the same time. So I'm going to highlight row 2, columns A through N, and do merging and centering there as well. Okay, so now our title and subtitle perfectly centered above the entire range of our worksheet. So it looks much nicer. Okay, next we're going to work on our some row headings here. So that's going to be from the word income in cell A3 going across to the word total. Okay, and what we want to use here excuse me, is the cell style again. So I'm going to hit my drop down menu for my cell styles. It's going to be the heading 1 cell style. Okay, so I'm going to apply the heading 1 cell style, and I'm going to do the same thing to row 8. So I'm going to come down, the word expenses, so A8, highlight my months all the way through the total, and again apply the heading 1 cell style. Okay, so we have our row titles here with our heading 1. Okay, next we're going to be formatting the totals row. So that's A6, and I'm going to highlight over to N6. Okay, we're going to go back to the cell styles, and there's one that says total. So that is what we were doing. We have totals. So you see it applies kind of a top line, and then a bold, and then we have our double line underneath the totals. So I'm going to do the same thing to row 17. So A17 across to N17. Again, apply the total cell style. Okay, and then next we're going to go down to the row that says net. So cell A19, highlight all the way across. Oop, we should have a total out there. We copy this formula over. There we go. Okay, so we're going to highlight our net column. And this time we're going to apply the accent 2 cell style. So you see accent 2 there. It's kind of orange with the white font. I'm going to apply that to our net column. So it's already starting to look a little nicer here. Okay, next we're going to do something so that each of the rest of the rows that are unformatted are kind of going to do like an alternating pattern. So you'll kind of see what I mean here. So first I would like you to highlight cell A4, okay, and highlight all the way across to N4, okay, and then take your hold down the control key on your keyboard. So find the control key, push it down, okay, and with it held down, you're going to highlight row 9. Okay, don't let go of the control key. Okay, then let go of your mouse. Highlight row 11. See how it's highlighted? This is how you select text or numbers that are not right next to each other. Okay, then we're going to highlight row 13. So we're highlighting every other row right now. Row 15. Okay, so we have rows 4, 9, 11, 13, and 15 highlighted. We're going to apply the accent 2 20% style format. So accent 2 20%. Okay, so it's going to apply that cell style to each of those rows that we had selected. Okay, again, we use the control key to highlight those rows not right next to each other or not adjacent to each other. Okay, so now we're going to do the other rows. So now I'm going to highlight row 5, so A5 to N5. Again, use my control key now and hold down the control button. Highlight row 10, row 12, row 14, and row 16. Okay, and then we can let go of everything. I'm going to come up and this time apply the 40% accent 2. So it's a little bit darker. So 40% accent 2. Okay, now as I click away, you can kind of see it's kind of a pattern, a light orange to a darker orange. Okay, so now we are going to work with our numbers and format the numbers a little bit here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is highlight cell B4 to N4. Okay, so our first row of numbers there. And up here you have some number formatting keys. Okay, so the dollar sign, as you can see, is going to apply the accounting format. Okay, so if we click that, okay, it adds the dollar sign, it adds commas. Okay, it'll take you out to 2 decimal points if you weren't already. Okay, so that's the accounting format, which is good when you're working with money. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to row 6. So our totals, and we're going to give it the accounting format. So I'm going to hit the dollar sign. Okay, we're going to do our first row of expenses. So I'm in cell B9. So our rent numbers here across to the total. So row B9 is going to get the accounting. Okay. Again, down to our totals. So row 17 is going to get the accounting format. And then row 19, our net numbers, we'll get the accounting format. Okay, and you'll notice the negative numbers are in parentheses, which is, you're in accounting, negative numbers are in parentheses. Okay, now the rest of the numbers, starting with row 5, we're going to use the comma format. So it's very similar to accounting, only no $sign. Okay, but it does add the commas where you would need it, and it would take you out to 2 decimal places, and it also replaces zeros with these dashes. So that's what happened to the zeros. Okay, so we're going to do that also to this whole area here, starting with B10 all the way this area to N16. So I have from B10, select all the way over and down to N16, and again I'm going to apply the comma style. Okay, so it all looks pretty nice there. Okay, so now kind of the last thing in formatting here is you can see some of our columns aren't really wide enough. Our words are getting cut off. Okay, we can't see the end, so we need to adjust our column widths. And there's kind of 2 ways you can do that. You can go up, you need to be between or to the right edge of a column that you want to adjust. And if you click and hold down, you can click and drag and make it wider. So you can do it manually, okay, make it as skinny or as wide as you want. Okay, so you can do it manually. Or there's a shortcut if you go up again to the right of the cell you want to format. So again, I'm to the right edge of column A, and my mouse turns into that kind of black crosshair, and I double click. Okay, that will make the column as wide as it needs to be for the contents of that column. So it might make it a little wider, or it could make it a little skinnier. So I'm going to do that to each column here. So again, I'm going out to the right edge between the 2 column headings. You can see the longer months, you can really see the columns move. So here. So double clicking to automatically adjust your column width. So now nothing's cut off, everything's easy to read. Okay, so this is a nice formatted spreadsheet. Okay, just applying some basic formatting makes it much easier to read. Okay, the last thing we wanted to show you is up here there's a name box. Okay, so you could, if you wanted to, click in there, and I could type in anything, J7, and hit enter, and my mouse, my active cell just automatically went to cell J7. If I wanted to do B13, type it in, hit enter, now I go to B13. All right, not really a useful tool in a small spreadsheet like this, but there are spreadsheets that could have thousands of rows, okay, or hundreds of columns to the left and to the right. Okay, so if you didn't want to scroll that far, kind of hard to find, but you knew the cell you wanted to go to, you can type it in there and it will go. Okay, so that's the end of part 3. In part 4, we're going to take some of this data and make a nice looking chart or graph.